We'll go ahead and give it a shot. Then we'll plug him back in when Mike gets here. And we always have the flash drive.
Yeah, that's already on their computer.
Right? Yeah, I got the flash drive if that works out. All right.
Okay, this is working. All right, we ready?
Ready.
Hello, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Sorry for the delay, technical issues, but Superman is on the way, so he'll be here in a minute. Hello, I'm Louise Belk, and I am the secretary for Wake Audubon, and I'm going to be communicating our announcements, and then John will be introducing our speaker. So we will go ahead and do announcements first. All right, so for our birding and event outings, we have bird outings most weekends this month. Check the calendar on our website and RSVP on Meetup. We're including one in Wendell, one in Hilltop Needmore, and there are probably others. And in the chat, there is also, we don't have it up here, but if you're online, the RSVP is showing up in the chat. We are an all-volunteer organization run by volunteer leaders. No special experience or education is needed, just a sincere interest in helping to fulfill our mission. If you're interested in learning more about being a volunteer leader, please talk to one of our board members. And board members who are here, if you'll raise your hand so we know who you are. Thank you. We have Eric and Matt and Jen and John and Louise. For conservation volunteer opportunities, there will be a meadow habitat workday at Lake Crabtree on January 24th from 10 to 12. Sign up is on the Wake County website, and the link is also found in our meetup. And we will be doing a tree planting at Justice Heights in Apex on February 7th from 1 to 4 p.m. And we'll share a sign-up link via our calendar and meetup once that becomes available. If you're interested, contact Mary Abrams in the meantime, and I don't see Mary. Is Mary here? She's okay. All right. The Wake Audubon Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging co-leads, Susan Davis and Rick LaRose, they have a lot in store for us this spring. Our new partnership with the Wake County brand of the National Alliance on Mental Health continues with the launch of our Mindful Birding for Well-Being outings. It's a slow pace to observe birds, relax in nature, and enjoy social connection in service to our physical and mental health. Watch Meetup and our calendar for entries about a late January outing at Shelley Lake Park, where eagles and great blue herons are already actively nesting. And we will have, I see Colleen out here, we will have a February big sit on the porch at White Deer Park in Garner, where we'll count birds for the Great Backyard Bird Count. Anything more you want to say about that, Colleen? It will be super fun. For those of you in line, you missed her saying it'll be super fun. And we get to sit. All right, watch for listings for our winter LGBTQ and allies Let's Go Birding Together outing and our welcoming and inclusive Learn to Bird beginning birding workshops coming in April. Say that 5 times. All right, next topic, calling all Nash County birders and bird lovers. Wake Audubon's service area does extend into Nash County, and we're partnering with Braswell Memorial Library in Rocky Mount to host a family fun day of birding in Nash County in late spring. We'll be seeking volunteers to help make this event a terrific success. So look for more details when our February newsletter comes out. All right, just a couple more things. Raleigh Parks has asked us to start offering a regular birding outing at Walnut Creek. If you're interested in supporting these outings as an outing leader or in other ways, reach out to John Gerwin. Please. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to mention what's how that started. Years ago, Wake Audubon was interested. I've done stuff down at Walnut Creek through Wake Audubon. We did stream cleanup. I used to organize did some birding stuff many years ago. And then we were going to do more before the pandemic. Things got crazy. It didn't happen. So we circled back. The one that contacted me does the active adults programming. And then in talking about Walnut Creek, she got up with the director, Kylene, and we've done stuff already with her. So we're looking to circle around and do a active adult birding series. I cannot do a series. I said I can do one or two, and I would, fish around. If you're interested, this would be really simple, basic. How to use binoculars, how to use a field guide, maybe use an app on the phone. Maybe just an hour in the morning on a weekday. We could do weekends. We just had our first talk, our first conversation a couple of days ago. So it's all new. And if you're interested, just let me know. It's not a commitment. It's just let me know you might be interested. After we talk more, you might not be, but it'd be simple. And it could be 2 leaders, who just agree to meet at Walnut Creek, take them on a bird walk. I'd like to do once a month is what they would like to do. They'll organize getting it going. They'll advertise it, and Kylene will work to try to get more of the community in Southeast Raleigh involved. Because when I did it before, we couldn't really get those folks involved. So we're trying to be a little broader. But her active adult stuff is a little more mixed, and including, she said, one of hers was a big Hispanic group that came. So we've been trying to branch out the way Rick's been doing with his group. So I'll be talking to Rick and probably Eric. But if you're interested, just let me know you're interested, and then we'll follow up and probably do a trial like in April, May, and maybe one in July, just to see how they go. And then really, if we got going, it'd probably be in the fall. So anyway, that's what we're thinking. It's really right at the very beginning. So we're still up for feedback as well. So all right, that's all I got.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This is mainly for the people in the room and anybody who's online who normally comes to the regular meetings. And that is, we'd like to have a rotational sign up for people to bring refreshments. It's very simple. We provide water and napkins and little plates and things. And we're just looking for people to bring whatever you want to bring. It doesn't have to be anything special. As you can see from what I did today, I did not cook. So it doesn't have to be anything big or complicated. Just a little something for people to have when they're networking after the programming is over. So I will start around this handy dandy sign-up sheet, and and it often is our if you're able to help, that would be great. Just put your name down and contact you. All right. Yes, Missy in the front row has brought in a few items that need new homes. There is, there are a couple of little framed bird
and great horned owl nest and a mallard hen.
Oh, there you go. So yes, these are free for the taking.
Reminds me, I brought a couple books, so.
Oh, there you go.
If you want, this one is The Genius of Birds.
The genius, not the genus, right?
You may have read Last Child in the Woods. The museum is doing
Okay.
a book for it. So if you want anything, let me know. It's like 500 books. I'll grab you something.
And one last thing, if this is your first member meeting, welcome. We're glad to have you here. Wake Audubon does pay the $20 National Audubon fee for your first year of membership. So if you're interested in joining, if you join, it's not separate to join Wake Audubon versus National Audubon. It's all one joining thing. You get the quarterly Audubon magazine, and it helps support our mission and what we're doing here. There is a form in the back on the left side near Missy's paintings. And so feel free to talk to me or John if you have any questions. All right.
Next up, we're trying to get the projector working, which
Yeah.
it hasn't been, but our museum helper is here and he's just trying to see what might be going on. So give us just a few minutes. The good news is that we do not have to put the chairs up afterwards. There's a meeting tomorrow morning, so they told me leave the chairs out. What's that? Do you want to say, well,
Go ahead and do that.
yeah, I mean, we could, well, Jim's got something to say first. Well, come on up. Speak to the audience online.
So I should have said this to you. So we have a planning session this Friday with the town of Fuquay Varina regarding a large native planting that we're working on to cover this easement that they stirred up through the park. It's about a half mile. It's about a half mile long. We don't have a date yet. We'll have a date this Friday. Look for it soon in our notices, and we'll be looking for lots of volunteers because half mile long, 50 or so feet wide, and we're partnering with South Wake conservationists. So we're gonna need a lot of bodies to spread the seed. It's all gonna be done by hand, and we're gonna need a lot of bodies to spread the straw on top of the seed afterwards. And town's gonna be doing a lot of the prep work for us, and they may have some equipment yet. We got details to be sorted out this Friday. Just want to put that out there so everybody parks it in their brain. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Well, it looks like Mike did his magic again and it's working, but you know, Brent, maybe I'll just fire up the flash drive here. We've got the PowerPoint on the drive. Let me just see what we got. We always have to do a little bit in PowerPoint. And in Zoom, there's always these little. What I'm gonna do is go into this. Now, oh, well, that's good. But before I do, get over back to, all right, where do I share? Where are you? Hello? There it is. Oh, yeah. All right. Who's online out there? We need to share my screen. Usually somebody's at home running Zoom. I'm not sure who's running the Zoom tonight. So we have a Zoom person. I'm just making sure we got. All right, we got permission. I have permission. That's what I like to hear. Now, we're good to go. And then once this one, we just want to hide. What is it that I'm hiding? That one? I hate to hide the wrong thing. No. Oh, yeah, sure, we can hide that. I don't have a problem with that. Beautiful. I get smarter every month. So we're gonna go ahead and I hope people can, yeah, I left that on. I hope people can see that online. If you cannot, well, holler through the Zoom. And then Ann is gonna make an introduction. I'm gonna dim the lights. We're actually ready to go. Sweet. Woo, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everybody online and here in person. Brent Laurenz is our speaker tonight on the Mountain to the Sea Trail, which is the flagship trail across North Carolina from the Blue Ridge to Jockey's Ridge. Brent has lived in North Carolina since 2009. He is the executive director of the Friends of the Mountain to the Sea Trail since 2022. This is actually January, so 3 years now. His undergraduate is from Virginia Tech, and he has a master's degree from George Washington University. His career has been in nonprofit advocacy and management. His family loves the mountains, camping, paddling, hiking. They visited lots of North Carolina small towns and state parks, and they're on a mission to see all 100 county courthouses. Please welcome Brent Laurenz.
Hopefully I won't break the technology anymore, but appreciate y'all having me. It's really great to be here with y'all this evening to share a little information about the Mountains to Sea Trail. I'm really excited to be able to share it. I'm not an expert birder myself, but it's great to be in y'all's company. Before we jump in, just show of hands, I guess I can't see the online folks, but how many of y'all have been on the Mountains to Sea Trail before? Okay, great. That's awesome. I think a lot of people have been on it and don't know they've been on it, but it's great to see some people that kind of have some passing familiarity with it. So tonight I'm just going to do a little bit of a history of the trail, a little bit about the details of the trail as it stands today, and some of the future plans for the trail. And then I'm excited to answer y'all's questions and hear kind of what y'all are interested in about the trail itself. So without breaking anything, okay, great. So this is a map of the current route of the Mountains to Sea Trail as it winds its way across North Carolina. One thing I always get when I talk to folks is I say it's about 1,200 miles. It's 1,175. And you get a lot of puzzled questions about how could it possibly be that wide to cross North Carolina. And as you can see, it's not a straight line. We take a lot of zigs and a lot of zags to get from point A to point B across North Carolina. We start where the western terminus, if you're going mountains to sea, is in Great Smoky Mountains National Park on Koohai, which is the tallest peak in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And it works its way east all the way to Jockey's Ridge State Park on the Outer Banks. As you're looking at this map, the red is off-road trail. So that is dirt path, that is greenway, that is Forest Service roads, unpaved, and beach. The black is roads. So we have road walking to stitch together this statewide path. And then if you have really good eyes, you'll see a blue line coming from Johnston County east to New Bern. That's the Neuse River. So there's a Neuse River paddle option for folks that want to complete the entire MST. So you can walk southeastern NC, or you can paddle yourself across the Neuse River all the way down to New Bern, essentially. And there's a couple other spots where you can do some paddling as well on the Yadkin River and the Coharie River in Sampson County. There's a couple other paddle options, but really it's a choose your own adventure kind of thing if you want to complete the whole trail. And a lot of people will bike the road route as well. But again, this is sort of just so we have a baseline understanding of where we're talking about as this trail crosses the state. So the Mountains to Sea Trail was first proposed in 1977 by Howard Lee, who was then serving as what is now Secretary of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, had a different name back then. And the famous story is that there was a trails conference in Lake Junaluska out in the mountains, and Secretary Lee pitched the idea of a statewide trail connecting the mountains to the seashore with zero permission from the governor or the administration to do so. So after he made the speech, it was super well received. People got excited about it. He had to come back to Raleigh, kind of hat in hand to the governor and say, hey, I made this idea, sorry. And the governor's sort of, as this story goes, said, well, there's no state money behind it, so figure it out. And that's sort of the genesis of the Mountain Sea Trail, and the ethos and the ethic that sort of defined the trail from its inception was it really was built on partnerships, collaboration, local municipalities, just folks on the ground passionate about building this trail. So that's really how it started, and that's really the spirit that's carried over as we've gone almost 50 years next year. So right now, the trail as it's built is primarily built and maintained by volunteers. Again, that spirit of cooperation and collaboration. We have about 1,000 plus volunteers every year that give around 40,000 hours to support this trail. Not all those folks are out there digging rocks and building in the dirt. Like you see in some of these pictures, a lot of people present at festivals, table at events, whatever they can do to give back to the trail. But it's really that collaborative spirit. And we have the trail broken down into about 20 different geographic regions, and each of those has a task force leader, which is a volunteer leader that organizes volunteer work days, recruits volunteers, and really works with the landowners, whether it's the National Park Service or the state parks or county parks. They're really our boots on the ground, and these people are some of the most inspiring folks you'll ever meet. They care so much and they give back so much, and the trail would not exist without them and the volunteers that make this happen. As I mentioned, to create a statewide trail, we use back roads. Throughout parts of the state, you'll see these current route signs on DOT signs across the state to kind of help raise awareness of the trail and also guide our folks that are trying to complete the entire trail. But our goal is to get rid of the roads. But for now, that's what we got. As I mentioned, you can paddle part of the Neuse and in the Yadkin rivers to complete the trail if you'd like. And a lot of folks do that. They want to complete the entire trail, especially the Neuse River section. And so the route also goes through towns and counties. This is a picture of downtown Elkin. The MST goes right down Main Street through Elkin. And that is by design. In Howard Lee's original speech, the original pitch was that this is not a purely wilderness trail. This is not the Appalachian Trail, where you're going to walk through a tunnel of trees and mountain peaks for 2,000 miles. The goal from the inception was to connect the people of North Carolina and the communities of North Carolina and sort of the cultural resources of North Carolina, in addition to the natural beauty and natural resources of North Carolina. So that's part of that spirit that still lives on with us and guides us to this day. So if you're a Mountain Sea Trail hiker that's doing the entire trail, you're going to walk through downtown Elkin, you're going to walk through downtown Clayton, but you're also going to walk across the tallest mountain in the eastern United States. You're also going to walk along the national seashore. So you're going to see all that North Carolina has to offer, and that's by design. So we'll never truly be a wilderness trail for the Mountain Sea Trail. So as you would guess, not a lot of people tackle the entire 1,175 miles. We're not the AT. There's not folks lined up to hike the MST from end to end every year. Most people get out there and do the day hike. You know, here in Wake County, we're blessed to have the Falls Lake area of the MST, which is a beautiful section of trail along the southern shore of Falls Lake. The Neuse River Greenway from the dam south or east is part of the MST. So again, that's where I say, like, a lot of people are on that Greenway, have no idea it's the Mountain Sea Trail. And that's part of our education as well, is to make sure people know the MST is part of that network. But really, you know, there's tens of thousands of people out there using the MST just to enjoy it as a family hike or whatever it might be. We do have folks that like to do the whole trail. I would say on average, 10 a year, you know, might complete the whole trail end to end as a through hike. The year after COVID, 2022, we had a lot more people. Again, we're still trying to find active opportunities that were not indoors. So again, we hope that that's growing. More people are finding out about the trail. More what we kind of call professional hikers are finding the MST. They're doing the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail. And then they come to do the MST as well. So it's growing. And our job is to continue to work to make sure that these folks have the resources and amenities they need to do that if they want to. I'm not lined up to do it. I don't know if any of y'all are or not, but maybe one day. So here's where the MST sort of stands today. As I said, it's about 1,175 miles. 725 are off roads or not on pavement, if you will, except for the greenway sections. So about 82 miles of beach along the Outer Banks, which I think a lot of people think that's going to be the easy part because it's flat. But if you've ever walked on a beach just to go back to the car or something like that, it's exhausting, let alone carrying a huge pack. And then they have Neuse River paddle option. And then again, one of our primary goals is how do we plan, design, and look at ways to move the trail off-road. And on the natural surface trail is the ideal. But again, we work with towns and communities along the way to make that happen. And so just a quick thing, Friends of the Mountains Sea Trail, we are the nonprofit organization that supports an MST. We're the kind of the only statewide organization dedicated solely to the MST. We were founded in 1997, so about 20 years after first proposed. And the rough timeline was after that initial speech in 1977, there was a lot of energy and excitement and enthusiasm for the trail. And then about the late 80s, early 90s, that just started to wane. Folks that were around in the beginning started moving on to other things. And it was about the mid 90s that really some more leadership got involved and passionate people, and they really picked up the mantle and then decided we needed a nonprofit to support this full time. So the nonprofit was launched in 97, didn't have a staff person until about 2008, 2007. And since then, it's been professionally staffed. Today, we have 5 full-time, 1 part-time. It was about 2 staff people 7 or 8 years ago, so it's growing a lot. But still, we're 5 plus 1 part-time doing 1,200 miles of trail across the state. We're all here in Raleigh. So again, it goes back to that collaboration, partnership, only way this trail's a thing in the real world. As I mentioned, volunteers, 38,000 hours in 2024. And then additionally, we are the primary source for folks that want to hike the trail, for trail guides, for directions, for shuttle services, trail angels, all that information you're going to find through us. One of our big things is working with our partners to improve the trail route. So we're trying to find ways to get off-road. How do we add camping locations? How do we just improve the hiker experience or add more amenities for the local communities? And, we advocate for the trail where we can to make sure it's successful. As I mentioned, we have a lot of resources to hike the trail. You go to our website, that bottom left corner is our interactive map. So you have a Google map, basically. You can scroll around, see where the trail goes. It's a really good resource for sort of finding where it is if you're going to be in the area. The bottom middle is far out. It's an app, so you can get it on your phone, follow along, which is what a lot of the thru hikers and long distance hikers use. And then we have our trail guides. These are on the far right and a snapshot of it in the top there. These are what we produce. They're not step-by-step directions, but they are turn-by-turn directions essentially for all 1,200 miles. So it'll say walk 0.2 miles, turn left at the thing and turn right. And the snapshot here, you kind of see 4 different segments. You'll see some little icons on there, so you can check and sort by sections of the trail that are river, bike, accessible, other things like that. So you can kind of get a sense of what is in that part of the trail. So like we're in segment 10 here in Raleigh, which is not on here, that snapshot, but that'll have the Neuse River Greenway starts at segment 11. So you can see it's ADA accessible because it's a greenway. So you can walk on that. It's flat, it's natural, it's paved. And there's a lot of other sections like that around the state. And these guides will kind of help you fine tune, again, if you're not looking to hike the whole thing, if you're going to Greensboro, you're going to, out west, you can look at these guides and get a sense of what each part of the trail has to offer. And that really helps people narrow down kind of where they might want to explore. All right. So one thing we always get asked is, the MST since Helene tore through in 2024. So I just want to share kind of a quick update on that. That's what we get the most questions about since then. And obviously, like so much of that part of the state, the MST was destroyed, if you will. All the entirety of the MST in the mountains was closed for a couple months after the storm while assessments were done. We had volunteers get out there. Much of the MST in the mountains is along the Blue Ridge Parkway, which saw catastrophic damage in so many different sections. So accessibility, even accessing the trail, was not possible to get in there and do cleanup work. But in the meantime, again, these volunteers and these people that care so much about our trail, their MST, got out and found other ways to get involved. This is the Over Mountain Victory Trail workday, where this group of MST volunteers showed up to help them get reopened and cleared stuff. When we finally got the Asheville corridor, we had a week-long blitz of work days to start clearing the trail there. These folks drove down from Ohio to join that effort to help clear the trail. This is National Park Service staff, our volunteers coming together along the Blue Ridge Parkway to just start cutting through even a navigable path, just 2 feet wide at sections, just to get these trees out of the way so people could start getting out there and enjoying the trail. I don't know how many thousands of trees along the trail were uprooted, had to be cleared out, and these giant root balls that just literally tore the trail out of the ground that had to be rebuilt in so many places. But again, I can't say it enough how much effort our volunteers put in to making the trail bring back to life. It's one of our chainsaw crews up near Boone. This is one on the right, is north of Boone, up near getting close to Downton Park, if you're familiar with that part of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Again, just hundreds of volunteers putting thousands of hours in to bring this trail back to life. And, again, can't thank them enough for what they do and the passion they bring to this task. And again, just sharing some small samples of what folks are dealing with. And if you go out there today, you're still going to see a lot of this evidence out there in the mountains along the trail. But here's where we are as of today, though. So we are 97% reopened along the mountain section. So this is all the way from the western terminus at Quohee to Stone Mountain State Park in the top right. Those little red dots in the middle, north of Asheville, those are the closures remaining. And that's in large part because the Blue Ridge Parkway washed away, washed off the hillside there. And they're having to rebuild the trail, they're having to rebuild the ground. And until that's done, we won't be able to get in there and reopen the trail in a lot of these areas. But I always tell people, watching the weeks and days after Helene, if you told me a year plus or a year and change, we'd be this far along, I wouldn't have believed you. Just thought it was going to be years and years and years to come back to life. But again, thanks to volunteers, thanks to our Park Service agencies and Forest Service. It's really tremendous the work they've done to get us to this point. So with that, I just want to share a little bit about what's sort of the latest on the Mountain Sea Trail and kind of what are some of these big projects we're planning, again, with an eye towards getting the trail off-road and improving the hiker experience. And the biggest factor in all of this has been what's called the Complete the Trails Fund, which the state created in 2021 to provide money for North Carolina's officially designated state trails, of which the Mountain Sea Trail is one of 15 official state trails. But that was the first time, as I mentioned, in 1977, the governor said no state money. That was the first time the state really invested any money in these officially authorized state trails. I should have mentioned at the beginning, the Mountain Sea Trail as a trail is a unit of the North Carolina State Park system, right? It's not a state park in that it's managed by state parks or anything like that, but it's a unit of the state park system, and we sort of independently support it. So through that funding, we were able to identify these little yellow stars were all projects we identified as potential projects to leverage this new state funding to improve the Mountain Sea Trail. And it's about 40 or so projects all across the state. It was really, again, a transformational, game-changing opportunity for us to build new trail sections and really tackle projects that have been dreamed of for years, but never would have had the resources to take on. And I'm going to run through a few of these that have been more recent, just to give you an example and some samples of the kinds of projects we work on. This is one of our most recent ones in Linville Gorge. This just opened. This picture's from April of last year. There was a section of the Mountain Sea Trail in Linville Gorge, which is one of the most rugged but beautiful parts of the trail and the state, that kind of went straight uphill. And if you know anything about water, when it comes downhill, it goes straight, and it just made this giant rutted out trail, and it was a miserable trail. It was not sustainable for the future. So designed this reroute, and also that trail just kind of took you straight up the hill, looking down. So this new trail on the right, you can see it opens up views of the gorge that nobody ever got before because they were staring at this rut in the ground. So not only is it a better, more sustainable trail, it's also a better experience. And this is the ribbon cutting we had out there with our partners at the national or state parks and U.S. Forest Service and our local volunteer crew that helped do a lot of the work out there. And so that wasn't new trail, but that was important redesign trail out there. And one of the most exciting ones we have currently in the hopper is at Hanging Rock State Park, which if you've never been there, highly recommend. It's gorgeous. But the red line is our current trail route that comes through the state park. And the trail actually bypasses, it skips Hanging Rock at the moment. So you walk through the visitor center and don't get to go to Hanging Rock State Park or the Hanging Rock. And then you come down and that little, it's hard to see the black and white checkered thing. That's the road walking into Danbury, which is, again, not overly pleasant road walking. It's kind of narrow. It's kind of windy. So working with the State Park Service, this yellow line is not the exact route, but it gives you a sense of this new trail we're in the process of working on that's going to take you right over Hanging Rock, along the peak, and then down right into the town of Danbury. You're going to pop out right behind their new art. If anybody's there, not a lot of people get to Danbury, but if you've been to Danbury, there was renovated art center, and this trail is going to come out right behind it. They got like an ice cream shop, a sandwich shop. So the town's like really thrilled about the idea of hikers having this new access point for the state park beyond just the MST. Obviously, we're excited because you're going to have a lot more off-road trail, a lot safer trail, a lot more beautiful trail. And the state park's really excited because, like a lot of state parks, gets crazy crowded on a pretty weekend day. So hikers are going to have a new access point for the state park as well through this eastern spot. So right now, that trail alignment was just approved in December, finalized by state parks. So we should, knocking on wood, get to start building that trail in the coming months, which is really exciting for us. Bentonville Battlefield, the State Historic Site in Johnston County, not too far east of here. We joke is the easiest place in the state to build trail. They're great partners, and it's a great partnership because the battlefield, the State Historic Site, has lots of land and obviously a lot of history, but there's not that many trails open for like historic interpretation. So our funding has allowed us to build trail there that benefits the MST by getting folks off-road, but it's really opening up opportunities for the State Historic Site to get visitors out in parts of the battlefield they never could walk on before, add more historic interpretation opportunities. So again, it really just is another one of those shining examples of partnerships and collaboration and how we work together across the state to make this thing happen. That new trail we just opened, that picture was from May of last year, is that northerly red squiggle. We opened the southerly red squiggle in 2023, and that yellow is some planned trail on the horizon as well. So we're going to keep working there at Bentonville and keep exploring opportunities to build trail there. Probably the most dynamic, exciting part of the state is Sampson and Bladen counties down there in southeast, which, not surprisingly, are also where the longest black lines of road walking currently are. So this is in Roseboro in Sampson County. It's a small little town, about 1,500 people, but the leadership in the town, the community has really embraced the MST as an opportunity to bring folks to the town, bring folks to the area. And again, it's one of those places where the MST walks right down, I don't know if they call it Main Street, but Main Street. This one on the bottom left here is where we're building brand new trail. We acquired an easement on that purple property last year, and we're in the process of building a new trail there. We'll be about a mile trail, all told, but it connects to an existing county park. So it's gonna be a great chance for just a little nature trail when you're at the park and the ball fields, in addition to serving the needs of MST hikers. This is downtown Roseboro. So the MST follows this old railroad bed here. And in 2022, we built this brick pathway on the left and designed it around there. That's a Veterans Memorial on the left, that little circular thing. And it's really become a town gathering spot. They have town festivals, they have food trucks lining this thing, and really beyond just being a kind of attractive way to show off the MST, it's become a real community gathering spot. There's picnic tables out there now. This, you kind of hard to tell, that little empty lot right up north of that brick pathway is now a stage. They built a little stage there for community things. So it's really exciting to see what the MST and the town can do together. And then the one on the right side, we are about to start building that part of the brick pathway by the end of the month or beginning next month. So we'll have 2 full blocks of this kind of brick pathway through town that's going to really highlight the MST and be an attractive spot on the trail. So there's an example of what the old one looks like, and our volunteers out there laying the bricks. It was a huge team effort to do that. This is that other trail I told you about that we're working on right now. That pink line is our trail that is under construction. The northerly green line, that's the one that connects through the county park. And then we're already identifying potential opportunities to the south for additional trail expansion near the elementary school. So we'll see how that grows there. This is folks getting out and building that new section of trail. We got, local students came out to help build the trail. So it's, again, really trying to get the community involved in this effort around this new trail too. And then the other part of the Roseboro area is the Pondberry Bay Preserve, which is a 2,000-acre plant conservation program preserve that has never been open to the public legally. In order to open trail there, though, we had to first build this parking area because they didn't want you parking on a plant conservation program land, which is understandable. So we got this land donated to us and then started building this parking area about 6 or 8 months ago. Had to clear some trees, had to bring in the gravel, build this nice little loop trail. And then we cut the ribbon on this in November, just this past November. It's the first publicly accessible natural surface hiking trail in all of Sampson County. So really excited about that. This was an effort 7 or 8 years in the making just to get all the permissions in place, get all the approvals in place, get all the funding lined up. So the community had a wonderful time celebrating this effort. And I think hikers are really getting out and enjoying it. There's a lot of longleaf pines, and it's a lot of, then there's this preserve protects the Pondberry Bay plant, which is well off the trail, so nobody will step on it on accident or go seeking it out. But it's a beautiful section of trail, and it's just exciting to get these new openings and celebrate with the community and see people really embrace what it's going to add to the outdoor recreation opportunities there. To the south there in Bladen County is our sort of second hot spot, if you will, in southeast North Carolina at Bladen Lake State Forest. And again, the red line again is our current trail, and the yellow is new or expansion trail coming. And this is at Jones Lake State Park, Bladen Lake State Forest, and Turnbull Creek Educational State Forest. So there's 3 public lands here, which is why we're able to work on expanding the MST here, because it is on public land. So the first step we had to do was open this little 16-foot bridge here that we finished at the end of 2022. And that was the first project we ever did with that new state funding I mentioned from the Complete the Trails program. That opened up 1 mile of trail. And the next step was a much larger bridge to open up the rest of the 6 miles to create about 13 miles of continuous trail here. And that bridge needs to go over Turnbull Creek, which you can see some pictures of here. This is beautiful Blackwater Creek with cypress trees. Not beautiful in August, but beautiful a lot of the rest of the year. But we had to build the bridge here out of the floodplain, which you can kind of see on this map. It gets quite wide down in eastern North Carolina. So we identified the sort of the narrowest point possible for that pedestrian bridge to cross the floodplain. And it's going to be about a 200-foot bridge. And this is where that state funding has been extremely instrumental because the cost of this bridge was well beyond our original budgets. But we really think it's going to be this iconic spot on the trail. It's going to bring a lot to this part of the state that doesn't have a lot of outdoor rec opportunities as much. Like I said, it's going to open up 13 miles of trail with 2 different camping options. So it's going to be a little weekender backpacking spot. Jones Lake State Park is 7 miles from this bridge. So great day hike opportunities, and just a really beautiful part of the state that, and different ecosystem that I think gets overlooked when you say the Mountain Sea Trail. Everybody's like, oh, well, the mountains have to be the best part of the Mountain Sea Trail, but these other parts of the state are equally gorgeous in their own way. And we're really excited to be able to get out and experience that both locally and to attract folks from across the state and across the region to come out and check it out. So this bridge is under active construction as we speak. They started in November. The goal is to have that finished by March, celebrate a grand opening in April if all goes well, but things don't always go according to plan. So hey, we'll see what happens, but we're extremely excited about this project too. Going further east to Holiday Shelter Game Land, which is a Wildlife Resources Commission property in Pender County. The yellow is our current trail, which I think is switched on this one that used to be red. But, and that's all kind of Forest Service roads. These are unpaved roads that hunters use. This is hunting lands. A lot of bikers use it. So it's not like what you think of as a hiking trail per se, but it's not walking along the side of a busy road. So we're getting folks off road. But on the yellow, you can see it kind of comes out at that far southwesterly point. And then you have to walk up Highway 17, which is not a pleasant road walk, before you cut down, go towards Surf City. But we helped the Nature Conservancy acquire that property in yellow a couple years ago. And that's giving us the opportunity to connect all the way through those state game lands and come out much closer to the road down to Surf City, which is going to be about 4 miles of trail and shave off about 4 miles of really, again, unpleasant road walking. And again, what we're trying to do when we do these kind of projects is balance just the needs of the average MST hiker, but also the needs of, you know, a family that wants to go for a hike in nature on a Saturday morning. So what can we do to make that accessible? What could, like, you know, what sort of educational elements can be pulled into this? So we did a whole master planning process for this extension. We contracted out, did community engagement work, worked with our stakeholders to develop this plan for how that trail can look and work on the ground. And so we completed that about a year ago, I think. And so now we're working with the Wildlife Resources Commission to identify sensitive areas that have to be avoided along the trail, what the trail construction will look like. It's really wet down there, as you can imagine, so we'll need extensive boardwalk probably. And then again, how do we build a really attractive, inviting trailhead that's going to be welcoming to people and, you know, give opportunities for a 1 to 2 mile, you know, hike there without, traipsing 55 miles through the wetlands. But really excited about that one too. Continuing east, going up to Carteret County at the North River Wetlands. This is a project here where currently we have trail technically in the North River Wetlands Preserve, which is managed by the North Carolina Coastal Federation, but it doesn't connect to the MST in any meaningful way at the moment, as you can kind of see through our black and white checkered line again. But that purple property in the north of the map, we are actively acquiring that property in partnership with the Coastal Federation. It's currently timber property, but we are under contract to purchase that, and that should happen any week now. And that's going to allow us to build that red connection, tap into the existing trail, and create about 11 miles of trail here. Again, saving hikers or MST walkers from crossing dangerous bridges, walking along roads, and again, open up this beautiful restored wetlands preserve. And in partnership with Coastal Federation, they're going to do tons of great ecological restoration work there. So it's, again, that excellent collaborative opportunity where we're getting trail, which is exciting, but the Coastal Federation is getting this really great conservation property and with all these great restoration opportunities. So again, that should be the first part of this year for sure, finishing that one up. And then again, as I mentioned, the trail ends at Jockey's Ridge State Park in the Outer Banks. It technically does not have a fixed endpoint. If you're trying to do the entire trail, the actual eastern terminus is the highest dune at Jockey's Ridge. So everybody's finish is a little different. And I think it's the honor system out there. You just kind of feel which one is the tallest. But a couple years ago, or several years ago, we were thinking, how do we mark that? Like, it's a really significant moment to finish the trail or start the trail. or just to know you're at the eastern terminus. And so one of my colleagues is a landscape architect and designer by practice. He designed this terminus marker here. And with that state funding, we were able to build it, which is great. And kind of built in the style of the dock pilings you would see on the Outer Banks, right? So using materials, the top profile kind of mimics our logo from Mountains to the Sea. The hole in the middle is kind of our white circular blaze. But really, it was a labor of love. He built this in his garage in Cary, had to haul it out there in 2 separate trips to Outer Banks. But we had this amazing ribbon cutting celebration in 2023 to celebrate this moment. And the state park, they just share with us that this is one of the things people come to the park to see now. They come to the visitor center. Where's that MST marker? Where's that monument? How do I find it? And what we hope is by having this really prominent thing out there, we're educating people, we're raising awareness. I mean, they get 1 million+ visitors to Jockey's Ridge State Park every year. And again, when they're walking those dunes, they're on the MST. They have no idea they're there, but maybe we're starting to make some connections, raise some awareness of that. And it's sort of embargoed for the moment. We're working on a Western Terminus 1 at Great Smoky Mountains National Park that will be nowhere near this scale, but again, will be worked to fit in with the rocky outcroppings of the Smoky Mountains. So we're excited about that. And we'll have sort of bookends on each side, which will be really neat, especially for our thru hikers and completers to have those moments to celebrate and acknowledge. But and the story my colleague shares, who built this, he designed it to be kind of engaging, right? Not just but to climb on, sit on it. But we were always never sure until it was in the ground. But like he literally put the finishing touches on it, and like the school group or some group of kids came up, and they're immediately climbing all over it. It's like it brought the biggest smile to his face, and the teacher or the guardian that was with him was like, "Is this okay?" And he's like, "Please, please climb, enjoy." So it was kind of neat to see that in action almost immediately. So that's sort of our projects, and we just want to also highlight, similar. It sounds like you all have a similar effort, but we're working to like build an MST that's welcoming, inclusive for all folks. And again, when I say we're at the Mountains to Sea Trail, I think a lot of people get that immediate image of this lone, rugged backpacker walking 1,000 miles and, sleeping in the woods for months on end. And it's really not that. It doesn't have to be that, I guess I should say. It is that family walk in the woods. It is that weekend backpacking trip with friends. It can really be anything for all experience levels, for all people, all types. We just want to make sure that we're building a place that's safe and welcoming for all North Carolinians, all visitors, to get out and experience nature and kind of, find the joy and respite that a lot of us do out in the woods or on the lake or whatever it might be. So we're kind of intentionally and consciously working towards that with partnerships and materials, translating things into Spanish, things like that. So it's an ongoing effort. It's never finished, but it's part of our work as we go forward. And I think that looks like the end of my hand presentation. So thank you for having me. Yes.
Interested in some insights you might have about how the Mountains Trail has or has the potential to either impact wildlife or facilitate engagement with wildlife. For example, if there are any particular challenges you found with developing new trail land about, we've done the environmental impact assessment and we can't do this because it'll impact the endangered species. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, great question. And for those on Zoom, the question was kind of how can the trail or does the trail impact wildlife as we're building a new trail, et cetera. A good example of that is at Hanging Rock State Park, where we had the initial trail alignment was laid out, but as it was being reviewed, it was going dangerously close to rattlesnake habitats. And I was like, well, nobody wants to walk by rattlesnake habitats, I don't think, and we don't want to disturb that. So that's an example of where we had to shift the trail away from that. So it was, they like rocky outcroppings, I think. So the trail line was shifted away from that. Another example is that large bridge we're building in Bladen County. As we're going through the process, identified it was some sort of seasonal bat something. So we had to avoid construction during this windows of time, right? So we're not disturbing the wildlife there. But as a state trail, and especially when we're using state funding, like the environmental review process is pretty strict on what we do about disturbing streams, water quality, wildlife, all those things. So it's a lot of boxes we have to check. But I think the flip side of that is like where we are in North River Wetlands Preserve, by working together with a conservation partner, we're able to conserve new lands and hopefully open up new opportunities for wildlife restoration or whatever the case may be. So hopefully the trail can also be a catalyst for some really positive things to improve those sort of things too.
I've been wondering whether when you're constructing the trail, have you come across any interesting indigenous, old pottery shards or something?
Yeah, I don't know that we've actually sort of been the ones to uncover the artifacts, but the trail does go through a lot of indigenous communities, and we are doing more to sort of highlight that along the trail and bring awareness and sort of the historical aspect of it. One example here, and again, we're a small group with a big trail, but trying to highlight some of the history as we go across the state. And one example here locally is Fish Dam Road, which used to connect Hillsborough and what's buried under Falls Lake now along the rivers. It was an old Native American trading path. And along the MST, we crossed that old path 7 or 8 times between Hillsborough and Falls Lake. And in a lot of places, you can see remnants of the old path. So we actually, in 2 places on the trail, we put signs in the ground that say, hey, you're standing on what used to be an old indigenous trading path. There's a QR code you can go online, and we have a whole website that shows all the crossings you'll encounter and how to identify these things. So we are trying to tell those stories better to the extent we can to what resources we have to bear on it. And the trail also, the Hillsborough Riverwalk, if you've been on that, that's part of the MST. And again, that's like a river greenway right past the historic Occoneechee replica village. So tying that history in is sort of important to us. And then also in Hillsborough, there's a really big archaeological site for the Occoneechee and other tribes. And so our job is to keep people out of there, right? So it's like stay on the path, build a fence. So that's also part of our work too.
In the comments section, if there's questions.
Yeah, chat to see.
Just start at the top and see if there's questions.
Let me see. Anybody online have a question, put it in the chat.
Other in the room while we're working on that, yeah.
Notice I just got a kayak and I noticed that I go online and a lot of places you can totally launch your kayak here. I don't know when that was posted, but now there's a whole bunch of riprap and I have to cross 30 boulders, or I don't know if you could ever go down that trail. Access updated.
Yeah, so the question for those online was about our kind of the river access and how much we can keep that updated. And that's a spot where we're really reliant on our partners to provide that, because our main focus is the dirt trail, essentially. We offer this as an option. So like at the Yadkin River Keeper Group is really good about staying up to date, and we partner with them well. The Neuse River, it's a little harder. I think there's less amenities we would like to offer. We would love to see that developed further into river camping and river access. It's not something we have sort of capacity to tackle, but so yeah, unfortunately for us, we're really relying on like that external partnership to let us know, like, hey, this opened, this closed. Same with like river outfitters. Some of these folks used to rent kayaks and canoes out of Smithfield that people could use, and and that closed a little while ago. So these outfitters come and go. So really, it's word of mouth, unfortunately, or partnerships reaching out to us directly on the river access stuff. Okay. How many days does it typically take for thru hikers to complete the trail, and what time of year is best for that? That's a great question. I think average is 2 to 3 months if somebody's just kind of doing the whole thing straight through. We had somebody set the record for fastest time a couple years ago, and it was less than 4 weeks. And they were averaging like 50 miles a day, which is insane, right? They're like running for 4 weeks straight and not sleeping, I guess. But yeah, no, on average 2 to 3 months. And the best time of year, I think varies. The main things we would tell folks is don't do East or North Carolina in the summer, right? The mosquitoes are larger than birds, and they will eat you alive. It's hot and miserable, and the mountains in the winter is not always pleasant. There's closures, there's treacherous conditions. So, but outside of that, some people will start on the East Coast in the spring and then hike through. So we'll start there before it gets warm, finish in the summer in the mountains. A lot of people do that, or start the mountains in late summer, and then they're sort of finishing on the coast in the fall, winter. So the main thing we say is, if you're smart, don't be down east in the summertime. Yeah.
But in general, are there huge stretches that have no camping, or is that mainly if you visit parks or whatever?
Yeah, great questions. The question was about camping along the trail, and that's one of our other big spots we're working on. In the western part of the state, camping is pretty reliable through the U.S. Forest Service, along the Blue Ridge Parkway, getting to state parks. But on the eastern part of the state, we're really reliant on what's called trail angels. These are kind of just volunteers that want to support folks walking the trail. So there are several volunteer fire departments in the eastern part of the state where you can sleep behind their building, use their water, use their bathroom. We have some small little tiny museums that'll let you sleep in the backyard or sleep on the couch. Churches will do that, civic clubs. And then some trail angels, people will just let you sleep in their yard. Some will open their homes to you. You sleep in a home, do laundry, take you to the store, whatever it might be. So if you're going to do the entire trail end to end, like as a through hike, you're going to be really reliant on those types of trail angels, because legal camping is sort of the big thing. A lot of people, I think, do stealth camping. They just camp where they find a spot, and we don't advocate that and don't advise that. We know what happens, but really, so a lot of our effort is how do we continue to make sure we're finding new opportunities for camping or lodging, so people can do it safely. All the new roads and parking may be good for an extended trail, but must come with their own ecological challenges for conservation areas. Is there an effort to minimize the footprint involved? I think, yeah, for sure. And this is where we work with our partners to, like the Wildlife Resources Commission, to ensure we're not, getting close to what it might be, Venus flytraps or other sensitive species. So yeah, we work very close with our partners when we're building a trail to ensure we're not damaging anything ecological, any sensitive natural areas, whether that's plant or animal or water. So we're very cognizant of that and take that very seriously as we build and develop new trail.
Yes. Keep rolling. Couple of thank yous. Somebody hadn't heard of it before. Well, there you go. That's why we do this. Yeah. Blue Jay. They're mentioned in Blue Jay County.
Yeah.
Blue Jay Point. Somebody mentioned that there are occasional bird walks in Bentonville. Are you still doing those, Colin? Yeah. Once in a while. Yeah. That's what they said. That's good. Yep, that's the next one here. Does it have a membership?
Yes, we are a sort of a membership-based organization. We have about 2,600 members, and as a nonprofit organization, we rely on donations from across the spectrum, from small dollar donations to corporate foundations or grants, things like that. So yes, definitely on our website, mountainstoseatrail.org. You can see more about that, but yes, sir. Friends of MST is the nonprofit 501c3 group. So the majority of our funding comes from individual donors, which we're thankful for. I mean, a lot of nonprofits are much more reliant on large foundation grants, and we're thankful to have a steady stream of passionate supporters that are willing to both give time and give money to support the group and the trail.
Scrolling just a sec.
How can we help with volunteer opportunities?
Oh, yeah.
Great question. You can go on our website, and we have an events tab that lists a lot of our volunteer opportunities. We have a volunteer or get involved page where you can find the local. I mentioned the task force leaders earlier. You can find the local task force leader in your area. Reach out. I don't know if everybody here is from Wake County, but Falls Lake has a very active, very engaged volunteer group. The volunteer task force leader there was actually the very first president of Friends of the MST in 1997 when he was a student at NC State. So he ran this original thing out of his dorm room at NC State, and he's still kicking it, which is amazing. But they do a ton of work days up there. A lot of folks go up there and they'll, adopt a section. So they'll adopt a 2-mile section, and they'll go out and walk it once a month, once every couple months, make sure it's in good shape. So there's a lot of that one-on-one small group stuff, but also larger work days where folks come together, 50, 60, 75 people to really do these bigger work days too. So definitely check out our website. We love the help.
I think you touched on this. Is there anything else to say about weekends or in the triangle?
Yeah. So Triangle for sure. As I mentioned, Falls Lake, the Durham, Orange County groups are extremely active as well, along Eno River State Park and through parts of Orange County. So you can find those folks on our website as well. And then Johnston County, we are growing and developing that task force. It's only a year or so old. As we've added more trail at Bentonville, the staff there, while they love the trail and the opportunities, don't have the capacity to maintain the trails. So we're growing the volunteer effort down there in Johnston County, which is great. And hopefully we'll have more and more folks join those efforts too. And those are usually on weekends, I think, as well. So
Getting down, there are only 3. Does the trail have a cabin headquarters for information? I don't think so.
yeah, our headquarters is here in Raleigh, over by North Hill, but our website is really going to have mostly all the information you could probably think of. You might have to navigate around a little bit to find it, but it's on there. And if not, my email is right there. You can shoot me an email, and we'll get you the information you need for sure.
Who are the trail angels?
Yeah, trail angels. So again, these are the people that they're not always hikers. They're just people that really love the MST for all kinds of reasons. I mentioned the town of Roseboro. We're doing a lot of active work. The mayor there is a trail angel. So she's really passionate about the trail. And again, it's really the eastern part of the state. There's a lot of more trail angels than the western part of the state, and the Piedmont to a lesser degree too. But again, these people kind of do a little bit of everything. A lot of people, if they're section hiking the trail, which is sort of trying to complete the whole thing, but in smaller sections, they'll give rides. So, hey, because obviously it's a linear path. So if you're doing a day hike, if you're doing 10 miles, you got 20 miles if you go there and back. So these folks will pick you up at the end, bring you back to your car. Again, if you're doing a through hike, a lot of them let you stay with them or in their yard. They'll take you to Food Lion to buy more whatever you need. They might just provide information like, hey, is it hunting season at this place, or is the trail closed here for whatever reason? That sort of stuff. So they really run the spectrum, and we're really, these are volunteers. We don't manage them. We're not the go-between between a hiker and a trail angel. They contact them directly. But they can provide almost whatever services they're comfortable providing, the trail angels. They'll do that. So they're really just passionate people that care so much about this trail and want to make it successful. So. Yeah. The question was where do you find the information about trail? And so we've made some adjustments to that recently, not for any real reason, but now you have to register as so if you want to complete the entire MST, we ask you to register just so we know who's out there. And if you register, you get access to the trail angel list. Not that there was anything bad about having it just publicly accessible, but it's really designed for the section hikers and the long distance hikers and the true hikers. And some people are on there just like, oh, I want to hike at Falls Lake for the day. Can you pick me up afterwards? And it's like, well, that's really not what it's for. And obviously section hikers can say, trail angels can say no to people, but they're trail angels for a reason because they're kind, caring people, and it's hard to say no to people sometimes. So just a little extra level of like, not legitimacy is not the right word, but just a little extra level of making sure folks are serious and really need the services to get that information.
I think we've done it. So thanks for coming out. Thanks, Brent, for coming out.
Well, thank you all so much for having me.
Thanks to all of you for joining online and also here in person. We're gonna, break away and do our usual snacks and all that. And hopefully we'll see a bunch of you next month. Keep an eye on the calendar. Missy and Ann and I continue to fill it. Actually, I'm the slacker. I've got some information for a couple months that is not filled in. I'm the problem, but I'll get to that soon. And we've got pretty much every month booked. We're still doing some trips. John Connors has offered to do a Woodcock Walk next in February. He's waiting to see, where the birds are and, how we can accommodate what often is 60 people. We usually have to break it up into 2 or more trips. And so it'll probably be around the 15th, which is a Sunday thinking. But anyway, it'll be around that time. So keep an eye on the calendar for that. Check the calendar for all other things that are going on. We're always pretty busy. And again, other questions, you can send us the email that contact information, all that sort of thing. And again, thanks for coming on out. I should mention real quick, the bird count, the Christmas bird count was, another success, a little more successful than years past. It was like 104 species. We don't always break 100. It might have even been 106 or something crazy. Emma Little, one of our former young naturalists, she works with me at Walnut Creek. She had to do a section by herself. I had very few people. We were split up. Matt did a section on his own. But Emma went one way and found a western tanager and an orange crown warbler. And then Emma Blackford, who's the director of Prairie Ridge, was alone, and she found a Nashville warbler. And that's like the first ever. So western tanager was the first ever on the Christmas count. Anyway, Brian pointed out, next year, if you want to see a cool bird, find somebody named Emma and go with them. So, but it worked out really well. We had, like I said, we had a big turnout for species, and it was good weather. So there have been some challenging weather events for the Christmas count the last few years. So it was really good. All right, so we'll head out, and we'll see y'all next time, especially online. Thanks.